question for David at Barnyard Bees.
Okay. Now,
Doesn't happen to his voice.
We lost your volume all of a sudden. No, we heard you for a minute and then.
Yeah, shut off.
He's muted.
He muted again.
No, it's not muted on my end.
How about now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. All right. This is for David at Barnyard Bees. I've been watching your videos a lot, and Joe's, and I've watched the Fat Bee Man's as well. I really like the idea of the fogger, and I have just gotten one and was thinking about doing the oxalic acid and the 190 grain and do that mixture. But from what I understand, that it, as far as the bees, it irritates them so bad that have you quit doing that?
Right now, we're doing 100% oxalic acid with a ProVape 110. It does aggravate them a little bit, and I think the big reason for that is because that the ingredients is so precise. If you're off just a little bit on those ingredients, that it just doesn't seem to work. And then another reason was I didn't know this when I started the video that so many states couldn't get 190 grain. It was just their state didn't sell it. It was illegal. Right. And that they was asking if they could use the 150 grain, and it won't work. It just won't stay dissolved, and it just absolutely won't work. So I kind of abandoned that idea with it because the ingredients had to be so precise, and that so many people just couldn't get it. So I just finally just started telling people, if you want to use the fogger, use a mineral oil and about 20 drops of wintergreen in a full reservoir of your fogger. If you want to use the fogger, use the mineral oil and the wintergreen instead.
Okay. Now let me ask you this: if I can get the 190, is it okay to still do that, or is that too much for the bees? Well,
after seeing a lot of comments about it aggravating the bees as much as it does, you might see what Joe thinks of his opinion on that as well. If you can go, in my opinion, after using it with experience of using it for a couple of years, it did fine for me, but you had to be exact on the ingredients.
Right.
And it did aggravate the bees more than the pure oxalic acid. I 100% agree with that. It did.
Okay. Now let me ask you this, maybe, or Joe or anybody. What about, could you use water, just like the water and oxalic acid, and just do that?
I think it's got to be distilled water, and I think Joe, had the ingredients with the distilled water. I've never tried the distilled water, so I don't know. But I think he has tried the distilled water, I believe.
Yeah.
I think it was Joe.
Yeah, the distilled water, it's a little harder to keep it mixed up. It won't stay in solution. You've got to heat it up and use it right then and there. I was looking for something when I went to the fogger deal, and they done it over in Germany. And it was a solution for me because I needed something that speeded things up. When you got 200 hives, it was just, that wand thing was just killing me.
Yeah.
It did speed things up, but what I didn't like about the fogger is it doesn't give me a precise measurement of what I'm treating the hive with. And I've since went to the ProVape, which I know it's a little expensive, but if you got a lot of hives, and I know each hive's getting 2 grams, and there's no question about it, and that's what they're getting. As the other, you're guessing. I don't care who you are. I'm like David. I had good luck with it. I had low mite counts when I done alcohol washes when I was doing the fogger and the 190 proof. A lot of people, they get too big and quick. That fogger has got to be extremely hot because you got to burn all that alcohol up before it comes out the end. If you let raw alcohol come out the end of that, you're going to blow your hive up. And most people think it needs to be cooler. It needs to be hotter.
Yeah.
That thing needs to be glowing red and get all of it vapors burn up, the alcohol part of it.
Yeah, that's kind of my point too about people just don't know those, they don't know that. So when they go to, because I did have one I squirted in the hive and it blew like a flame through it. And, learned later on, it has to be really hot. And a lot of people just don't realize that. And then after that, I thought, well, if you can go 100% oxalic acid, I think you're better off because that Pro Vape is so precise. It heats it to the exact temperature, and it just puts the exact amount, just like you said. You flip that thing over, and it's 100% accurate, perfect every time.
I would prefer, if I had just less than 20 hives, I would prefer just a regular old wand over the fogger personally. But we got one in here, Bryant Davis, Mississippi. That's all he does. Has done it for the last 5 years. Has real good success with it. You want to talk about that, Bryant?
I don't have any trouble with it. I like it, but I use 190 grain alcohol because it vaporizes at 172 degrees, I think. And if you use regular water, it's going to have to be 212 or better. And I hold my wand about 6 inches back and just blow it through the hole. And I mix glycerin oil with it where I can see how much it smokes. And then you can pretty well judge how much you throw it in high.
Distill water during the summer.
Okay. That answer your question, Roger?
Yes, sir. It sure did. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank y'all.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome.
Okay, up next, we got David and Patten here. He ain't got no mic. He can't. He got his hand raised. You got a question down there? Somebody look in the comments. I can't run comments on mine and look at it. He doesn't have a mic, or it ain't showing a mic picture, so I can't unmute him. How about Jeremy C? Unmute you there. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Hi, everybody. Joe, I just want to give a shout out to you. You've been a big help as a beginner beekeeper. It's my first year. And David, I'm representing you tonight.
Hey, yeah.
Big fan.
Well, thank you.
Good to see everybody on here. My girlfriend actually got a this shirt autographed from you guys.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that.
I'm from Central Illinois. So I'm a beginner, and I got 2 packages this year. I actually got a queen from you too, David. Doing real well. So, but I've got 2 packages this year starting out, and I made 2 successful splits, and I made 2 later splits that one were successful. So I have 3 hives, 3 full hives, and I've got 3 nukes. Trying to overwinter my nukes. And as a beginner, I don't know if that's going to be possible or not, but so far they're all alive and doing well. I've got sugar boards over the tops of them. And I did treat. You were talking about treating bees, and I used the vaporizer, oxalic acid, and the 190 proof. And I will say, my full hives, my big hives, I have screened bottom boards, and I was able to check them, and I counted 12 mites on my strong hive, and my weaker hive, I counted 51 mites, and this was 2 weeks ago.
Mm.
So that's something to think about, I guess. I did my fall treatment as well as I treated one time 2 weeks ago, and I counted that many mites. I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah.
So
one thing you got to realize with oxalic acid is oxalic acid just kills phoretic mites. That's the mites that's on the outside, not in the cells. It does not affect it. So You gotta, that's why you keep doing it every month. So you keep the mite population down. As they come out, you kill some more and you kill some more and you keep them low. Formic acid, which is the mite away strips, it will kill the mites in the cells. But the only thing bad about formic acid, I like formic acid. Formic acid is great, but it's temperature sensitive. You can't use it above 80 or 85 degrees because it'll sterilize your queens. You just can't put it in there and leave it in there. So late in the year, after you got your honey pulled, if you've got can treat with formic acid, it's a good treatment late. I mean, it'll knock everything that's in there.
You can use it over winter.
I think I use formic acid a different way, off label. So we'll go there. But I think the strips, I think they put them in for 7 days. I think. But
Okay.
Ought to change up. I mean, but you can use formic acid with honey supers on. It's just temperature sensitive. You can't use it above 80 or 85 degrees.
Yeah.
Okay. One other thing I want to talk about is hive beetles, right?
Okay.
Hive beetles were terrible for me. I mean, the bees took care of them, but my gosh, they were awful. And I used the beetle blasters with the oil, the mineral oil in them, and I recently that worked pretty good. But then I went with the diatomaceous earth in those, and that worked pretty good too. Well, then I put it on my underneath my screen bottom boards. I put diatomaceous earth on that, and I had a lot of dead beetles in those as well.
Yeah.
That seemed to take care of a lot of them, but I still had a lot in my hives. But the bees pushed them all up to the outer cover, or the inner cover, the top of it. So I guess they're taking care of the problem.
Yeah.
But they were pretty bad.
Yeah, diatomaceous earth works really good as long as you can keep it dry, because it's fossilized. They dig it up from the earth. It's just fossilized crystals that they get up under the wings, and they cut the beetle to pieces. Anything that's got an exoskeleton, like it'll kill. As long as you keep it dry.
All right. So you would recommend using that? Continue to use that then?
If it works for you, yeah. Another thing is what we recommend a lot is the Beetle Barnes. I love the Beetle Barnes.
I've saw you talk about those.
Yeah, to me, the Beetle Barnes, you can put whatever kind of bait you want inside, and there's certain baits we're not allowed to talk about, but you can make your own. But I don't know if we're allowed to stay on here or not. But
I'd rather not, Dave.
Okay, but you can make your own.
Yeah, I'll look into that because they're a nuisance. I just don't like them. I know the bees take care of them, but still, it's
one thing I can in my area, that you make a try, which is labeled for too. It's called Guard Star. Follow its label directions. I'm not going to give you whatever. And drink it with a, I call it like a flower water, a little shower head, and put it. You can put it under the hive, but put it at least 3 foot out, especially since you got screen bottom boards. And how often you need to do it according to how much weather you got, as far as the rain. But it's a very good preventative as far as the larva hatching and everything. Because once they go down into that Guard Star, which is a pyrethroid, it will kill them.
Yeah.
Kill your bees too. So you need to do this at night, so your bees are not out and on the grass and whatever. Mow your grass down tight as you can get it. 1/2 inch or shorter. So that's dirt. And it's the soil with that Guard Star. And again, it's labeled, so it's correct for beehives. It's got a recommendation as far as the rating and everything in it. But pick it up like your Tract Supplies online. Okay, great. Thank you.
If you got them really bad, it'll knock the population down pretty quick.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that what you use that, Joe?
Have I used it before?
Yes.
I have.
Yeah.
But since I put the 3-foot strip of soil stabilization cloth around my hive, the beetles can't get in the ground. I don't know if it might crawl off the side and get in the ground, but the birds get a chance to pick them off before they get there. I've not had to use any, but in the past years, I used to have them real bad. The Guard Star works really well.
Yeah, that's good instruction right there. Just keep your grass low, and as many rocks or anything that's hard surface under your hive, the better. I mean, in my opinion, if you can put a crush and run or concrete or something hard, because those beetle larvae, they have to bore down into the ground to pupate to come back up, and that's when they really get you. It's not so much the beetles that are in there, it's their offspring that's going to come in mass numbers that'll wreck your hive. And what they just said right there, do some research on that, and I recommend it.
Okay. Now, if you're around an agriculture area where you can get ag lime, ag lime is not like powdered lime. It's a lot coarser. And Kent Williams, which is a master beekeeper in Wingo, Kentucky, and he uses about 2 inches of that all the way around his hives, 3 foot out. And he says that takes care of the beetles. They can't get to it.
Ag lime is sort of like your Dimetaceous earth. It's got the same properties basically as it does in the way it affects the beetles.
That it, Jeremy?
One thing.
Go ahead, Langford. Go ahead, Langford.
Well, one thing, I do a lot of research. And I design different kinds of hives. And on my YouTube channel, you'll find a couple of different designs. One's a PVC portal entrance, and one of them is an entrance. They just go in and up through the bottom. Beetles cannot, as long as it's a sharp curve or a sharp edge, beetles cannot walk around it. And in these hives, I have no beetles whatsoever. In my top bars, I do what's called a periscoping entrance, where they come in at the bottom, they travel up the side, and go in at the top. I have no beetle problems in that one because the constant traffic keeps them from getting in that, plus they can't make that 90-degree turn.
Okay.
I'll have to check into that.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Jeremy.
I had one more question. I had when the bees were flying last week, I was watching them, and I've got quite a few drones still in my hive. Is that normal? I mean, it was my strongest hive, but I had a lot of drones coming in and out of it.
Well, different species of bees carry different amounts of drones, and different, could have been at they might have requeened at the end of the year, and you didn't catch it, and they might have made or swarmed. A little swarm come out of there, and the queen left, and they may have made a bunch of drones and had excess. A lot of people think that don't watch their hives a lot that the queens are always there. I run a lot of hives, and I'm sure queens move around a lot in the boxes in the yard. Unless you've got them marked and know what they are, they move a lot in the yard. You'll find a box that didn't have any bees in it, and there'll be another queen and one gone from over here, and she's took up residence in another box. So,
okay.
There's a lot of variables. Could be just the temperature, the species of bee that it's in the box. Some carry more heavier drone amount. Could have swarmed out late in the fall there and just had a bunch of excess drones.
Okay.
Drones live about 90 days. That's about average for a drone. So, 3 months. If they'd swarmed out in September, they'd still have quite a few drones in there because they wouldn't have been mating with much or not much flying at that time.
No. Right. Okay. Well, I appreciate you guys, and thanks a lot, David and Joe. I appreciate your video.
You're welcome.
Very educational.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Hey, Joe.
Yes, sir.
The David and Peyton's apiary that couldn't get their mic to work before Jeremy, they typed their question. Do you want me to read it for you?
Yeah, go ahead. You take care of it.
Their question is, has anyone seen a benefit to running mite biters?
I've never tried them.
Joe, you did some tests on some of yours, didn't you?
Yeah, I did test. I tested the Martha Carpenter mite maulers and the Purdue ankle biters. I put a sticky board in with a 1/8 inch hardware cloth over the sticky board, just like Purdue tests all their hives, and left them in there for 30 days. And I could have some pictures, but I can't get to them right now. The Purdue hive, I can tell you the results. The Purdue hive had, I think it was 4 dead mites in the bottom that was dead. It had 6 live hive beetles and 1 dead one, I think it was. And the bottom board was filthy. I mean, it was just, they couldn't, of course, the bees couldn't get down in there to clean it because of the hardware cost. It was filthy. But I went to the Martha Carpenter hive. I seen a lot of beetle parts, but I seen not enough to say that how many beetles was there. It was just parts. And and also what was unique about the Martha Carpenters, it had 7, I think it was 7 or 9 hive beetle shells in there with nothing in it. The guts was ate out of it, just the shells. And far as a fodder, what I call fodder, there's a lot of dirty parts. I had bee parts where they chewed bees' wings off and legs. I don't know if that was intruded, but didn't have any a lot of the loose, dirty stuff in a hive. And we questioned Bill Carpenter, Jason did, called him and asked him about the hive. He said, "Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, they chew hive beetles too." And then after I got done with that test, I immediately put a new clean board in there and vaporized oxalic acid to get a mite count. And both hives come up with 0 mites after that. So mite-wise, the Purdue seemed to be all right, but they didn't. I'm not sold totally on the Purdues yet. It's still out. I've got to run some running out there, and I'm more impressed with other bees than I are there. Just whatever anybody else got, Jason may have a comment on that too.
I do, and I have the same. I have breeders from both lines that Joe does, and I see similar results. The Martha Carpenter bees are extremely prolific, strong, healthy bees. They don't seem to need a lot of help from us. Their mite counts are staying very low, and from what I've looked at under the microscope, they are chewing the bodies of the mites. You can see where they're bit, where the shell of the mite will be crushed. The Purdue bees also do what Purdue says they do. They actually chew on the legs of the mites, which a mite doesn't clot. Their blood doesn't clot like a human's. So if they get a leg chewed off, that mite will die within minutes because they'll just bleed out, just like an animal would if they lost a limb that couldn't clot. I found that both strains work. If you look at the research that Purdue has done, recent, if I'm not mistaken, I was reading on their website, and a lot of their bees, they're claiming to be around 50% mite chewing or ankle biting, and they're just testing for ankle biting. They don't count a chewed body. I learned that from talking to him when I was up there in the spring. And if you talk to Bill Carpenter, who he's well up into his 80s now, and he's still got some bees, but I think he got hit pretty hard by that storm in Florida this spring. His bees started though in New York, and that's where he lived before. And some of those bees he gave to Cornell University years ago for them to test. And from there, they've scattered out. And he's been, I don't know, him and his wife bred that line of bees for 20 or 30 years. And he retired, moved to Florida, and continued the same strain of bees in an area where he told me he doesn't have a lot of other beekeepers, or he didn't until recently. He was isolated enough that he was getting his own stock. They were maintaining their own chewing traits, and having had them and raised them and raised breeder queens from them, inseminated them, I like both strains. I like the Purdue and the Martha Carpenter strain. I think the Purdue strain is still growing and will get better. I think the percentage of mite chewing will raise on those. When Bill sold a breeder queen, the last time I bought breeder queens from him was this spring before the storm hit Florida. And at that time, he would only sell a tested breeder queen, and that queen had to be showing, with his tests, a 75% or greater mite chewing on the bodies of the mite. And what's interesting is he doesn't count ankles chewed. Purdue doesn't count bodies chewed. Bill doesn't count ankles chewed. So you have two different strains of mite biters. Both of them do well. I have breeders from both of them here, and I think it's been tried to some extent in the past, but I don't know how much. But I'm going to try to cross those two strains at some point and test. And as with any successful breeding program, selection is a key. You can't just breed them and say that's what you've got. You have to test. You breed out a handful of queens, maybe artificially inseminate 20 queens. Put those 20 queens out there, raise 50 daughters from each one, put at least 50, maybe 100 if you have the resources. Put each of those 50 in their own little corner of the bee yard and test them all and pick the best of the best from those, and those will get rolled into your next year breeders. That way you're selecting and making that trait stronger, but you got to also select for other traits, because you got to remember the reason humans keep bees is for honey production. So we need to make sure they produce honey. We need to make sure they're healthy. They're having the mite chewing trait. There's a lot of different traits and selection processes that you got to follow to make sure that you make those strains stronger. But in general, I think they're both excellent tools to add to someone's toolbox or someone's apiary to start those genes in the area, along with VSH and hygienic bees. All of those are excellent tools to add to your toolbox. That's really all I've got on them.
Okay. Hope that answers your question on that J&L, I think it was. Okay, next one up is Joan Robertson. You're unmuted. Okay, go ahead. Joan Robertson, you there? Well, she muted her mic back.
Hey, he's
Hear
on
me
mute.
now?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for putting this together, Joe.
Okay, you're welcome.
I've got a question on those mite maulers. I know you said that this was your first year with them and you hadn't overwintered them. Maybe Jason, if you can just talk a little bit about how they overwinter. How gentle are they, and what's their honey production?
Right now, they're some of the strongest hives that I've got in the yard. They tend to hold, so far from what I've seen, a stronger population through the winter, and my winter started in October. I've already had snows and sub-zero weather and all kinds of crazy stuff, and every warm day that I'm out, we had a pretty warm day yesterday, a lot of rain, and then the sun came out for a while, and every warm day that I'm out, I see a little cloud of young bees orienting in front of that hive, in front of all of the hives. So they're putting on plenty of honey. They're strong. They're doing well through the winter. And your other question was what? Temperament? Temperament-wise, they're about like your average Italian honeybee. They're not as quiet as a Carniolan, but they're not crazy. I mean, if you, I work them all the time. Veil and no gloves, short sleeve T-shirt and shorts. So they're not overly aggressive. They're like your normal Italian honeybee. Although I'm not sure they're Italian because they seem to come in about 4 different colors. And I think that's just a result of his 20 or 30 years of selectively breeding and for the traits that he wanted.
Bishop, you might mention about the wing database on that, where it shows them lines from. Is real interesting.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of research since winter kicked in, and I'm not in the hives as much right now, on wing morphology. And I've got a little scanner set up, and I scan in the wings, and a lot of times you can help determine, to a pretty good percentage of accuracy, the species or subspecies of honeybee that you're getting, or the majority of them in the colony. And whenever I ran the tests on the Martha Carpenter bees, what's interesting is I got a high percentage of Aphis mellifera mellifera, which was the German black bee that we had here years ago, that the mites supposedly killed most of them out when the mites came here before. But the mellifera mellifera was what was really good at surviving our winters here and putting on lots of honey. That's what all the old timers had. And we thought, I never see these, we thought most of those had died out. And thinking, this is just a theory. I don't know this to be a fact, but Bill being originally from New York, I think New York was one of the last places that they had a lot of mellifera mellifera. So I'm guessing he probably bred a lot of that into his stock, and when he moved to Florida, into that isolated area, that probably continued to breed that into his stock. So I even questioned the results of my tests, and I sent those results to the guy that wrote the program in Sweden. He's a doctorate in entomology. And he looked over the results, and he agreed with me. They do look to be a high percentage, like 75% or better mellifera mellifera, which I think is great. It's surprising, but I'm going to continue to follow that road and see if I can prove that out some more.
Okay. That answer your question, John?
Yeah, it sure does. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Uh-huh. Okay, next up is, I need my glasses on, Darby. Let me see if I can unmute you there. Go ahead, Darby.
My question is, I got some family members that want to start some hives, and I thought about buying a couple packages and just dividing them up and putting them in 2-frame nukes. And my packages, they'll each have a mated queen, but what about buying some queen cells and just putting some other ones? But then I'm kind of skeptical on buying queen cells from individuals because they should be at a certain temperature or for them to survive. So I'm kind of iffy on that. We're just go ahead and buy mated queens and put in them. I just wonder what you guys might think of that.
Well, I'm sure a bunch of guys here, we'll get a bunch of different answers here. I'm going to jump in and answer this first. Package bees, you can buy package bees from anybody. I don't care who they are. You can buy package bees from anybody. But when, especially, I'm the believer that you need to get a bee that's closer to your climate. I mean, I think they do better. So if you buy packages, let them get up there, start your packages early, let them build up, and then in the middle of the spring, either split them and buy you a queen that's local, a local queen. That way it's to your climate, or just requeen the whole hive. Pinch the other queen off and put a bee in there from your climate. I've raised a lot of southern bees here, and me personally, I have a few survive. They don't really survive. Now, the daughters that I breed in the yard do a lot better, but the pure ones I get from the south in packages just does not winter well here. Do they make a lot of brood? Absolutely. I run 2, 3, 4 colonies just because they're brood making machines. And they all got their pros and cons. Anybody else want to talk about that? You can go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, in my opinion, did you say you're a first-time beekeeper?
No, I'm not a first-time beekeeper. Actually, I bought some nukes from Joe last year, and they're doing really well.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking if you was a new beekeeper, I was gonna recommend nukes over packages. You know,
Yeah, I thought about that. I'm just trying to save a little money and then get more experience. You know, if I took
Right.
it back, divide it up, and buy some.
okay. Yeah, yeah. If you got the experience and you've raised some a year, then packages would be okay. And to do, you know, like if you want to split up that package, take one package and split it up to make 2 colonies out of it. Yeah, but I would stick, in my opinion, I would stick with a mated queen.
Anybody else got to comment on that?
I sort of agree with David from that perspective, because you start that package off, and if you split it, you put that mated queen in there, it's off to the races. If you're waiting for that queen cell, it's got to get out and get mated, depending on what your drone situation is, that she may or may not get mated, or she may not come back. And then
exactly
with a mated queen, you know what you've got, providing that's set.
You want to say something?
Yeah.
Say something, Langford. I thought I heard you in there.
Well, everybody in our group knows my opinion. I do not have anything to do with packages. When I first started beekeeping, I tried packages, and they died every year. And I'm not that far north. My local queens and queens that I've gotten from Jason, they do wonderful. Very few losses. Last year was around 6%. I'm just not a fan of packages. That's what I'll leave there.
Okay.
I just want to add one thing on that. I always tell people, you know, if they want to get packages, that's fine, but I recommend that they requeen them as soon as they can, with, you know, something that's more local or more adapt to their climate. Bees tend to be beekeeping in general tends to be location specific. You know, I can do one thing here and go 20 miles down the road, and that same thing may not work, or that same queen may not do as well. Of course, you know, with queens it's farther than 20 miles, but the climate and the location plays a big part in it. And if you want to get packages and you're not comfortable that those particular queens will survive in your climate, go ahead and get the packages. Just requeen them.
Well, the other thing, packages are 6 to 7, sometimes 8 weeks, depending on where you're at, behind a nuke. You have an established colony with the queen that is the mother of the bees in that hive. You don't know how many hives have been taken into that package, and that queen is pulled out of a mating nuke. Sometimes she's still a virgin. Most of those big guys go by time. They don't go by looking to see if there's eggs in there.
I have real good luck with packages, starting them out with packages. I don't think you have any trouble starting them out, but I believe in the northern climate that you need to requeen sometime during the summer to get them ready for winter. That's my personal opinion. Down there where David's at, them bees are from the south. They're used to that. They'll do just fine where David's at.
Well, now one thing, I have talking to a lot of customers up north, New York, New Hampshire, and they've run the queens over the winter last year and the year before, and they all like them and said they did fine. You just never know, you know.
Yeah, and all packages are not created equal either. I mean, they're just not. We all know that.
Yeah.
There's good ones and bad ones and like that. But packages are definitely a cheaper way to go, especially if you got experience and you can split them, take a 3-pound package and put them in a 2-frame box and buy 2 extra queens and make 3 hives out of it. Early in the spring, you can go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about doing. My other option, I thought about just buying a couple packages and pulling frames of eggs from each of mine and see if they'll make queens from it.
You can. If you do it the right time, when they're wanting to swarm, your chances are real high of being successful. But if you do it too early, getting a good mated queen is sometimes tough when it's still a little cool out.
That's true.
Yeah.
My other question is, I have one more question real quick.
Okay.
Now, Joe, I don't know if you know anybody that's around our area. Now, I'm about 30 miles west of Joe. So is there anybody around there you know that really runs 3 deeps through the winter?
I don't have anybody that runs 3 deeps. I usually run, I like to bring all my strong hives down to 2 deeps and then put a sugar block on them. And this year I didn't get them all to it. My single deep nukes that are weaker, I like to have a single deep with a medium frame of honey above them. I think that's the best way to winter in our area, is with a deep and a medium. It doesn't give them that big extra space, but a medium of honey is more than enough to take care of a nuke through the winter. On the average year. I mean, you have exceptions to the rule. Go ahead, Langford.
Tim Ives is a gentleman up there in your area, and he runs 3 deeps. And he has great success with running 3 deeps. And he somehow has lost being a co-host, Joe.
Who has? Keith has? Okay.
Keith has lost being a co-host. That's why he's not commenting.
Okay. I'll take care of it. Go ahead, Langford.
No, that's all. I was just going to say Tim Ives. He's a friend of mine up there, and he runs all 3 deeps.
Okay. That answer your question?
Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys.
Okay. Next up is Joyce Welch. You're unmuted. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to say thanks for all the information. I built some of my own nukes this spring, last winter for this spring, and I put the little beetle jars in the bottom boards and using the oil in the bottom of those. I didn't have any luck with that at all. Do you think the same thing would work with diatomaceous earth instead of the oil?
I changed over to diatomaceous earth when I was using them. I tried that for a couple years, and I used the actual aluminum strips around the bottom and sprayed it with Never Wet to keep the beetles out. And did it work? Yeah, they work. It works fine, but it's one of these deals. This far north, you can't run them aluminum strips. It draws a bead of ice all the way around the inside of the hive up here. You got to take them, change bottom boards or take them off in the wintertime. But the diatomaceous earth will work fine in that.
Okay, I got another quick question, if I may.
Yeah.
I started with several nukes. I got 4 nukes from Barnyard Bees this spring, and I've got a couple other nukes in Georgia and Tennessee, and got up to about 35, and I'm overwintering about 25 now.
Great.
About a third of them are double deeps. But I had several hives that I couldn't keep the ants out. And I saw your video on those sticky boards.
Yes.
Would it be possible to cut those sticky boards into little strips instead of using the whole board?
The sticky board, what she's talking about, they're called sticky mouse traps, and you get 2 to a card. And right here, you can buy a card for 49 cents, so you can get 2 full cards for 49 cents. So I don't mess with cutting them. Could you cut them? Yeah, it'd probably be a mess. That stuff sticks to everything. But yeah, I say you could probably cut them. Maybe you could cut them with a razor knife before you peel the paper off, would be my best suggestion. But
where do you get them?
I would think you'd be able to get them on the internet. My local hardware store here carries them. I don't know. Okay. Other than that, maybe some of the other guys would know where you can get them. But used to, if the ants are in just the feeders, don't worry too much about it. I don't even pay no attention to ants in the feeders anymore. And I don't know if I've ever seen ants take over a beehive. Now, if it was a weak hive and the sick, they might, but bees seem to keep the ants running into the feeders, and I don't worry about them up there. They need to eat too, so I just let them go. Okay.
Well, there is what's called a Brazilian ant that's coming into our area here in the south. And they will actually go in and drag the larvae and the eggs out of the hive. We've had a lady in the bee club out of Chattanooga that lost a whole yard to them. And the state apiaries came in and found out that it was the Brazilian ants.
Mm.
And your question about the mason jars and the bottom boards?
Yes, sir.
I mix up a little bit of pollen, some yeast, and a little bit of honey and lace the bottom of those jars, and it'll attract the beetles down into them.
Okay. Let's see here. You got anything else, Joyce? That'd be good. She's muted. All right. Okay. I'm gonna. Next is Cherokee Bees. You're unmuted. Go ahead.
Hey, Joe. I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
My question is a little bit different tact here. I was looking forward to making some queens in the spring, and I know you do some grafting yourself. So could you tell me what you do as far as your self-starter colony?
I'll pick a pretty strong nuke. It don't have to be a nuke, but it's just what I run basically here in this particular yard. I'll take a real strong nuke and pull a frame out of it and take the frame of bees and the queen and put her in another colony. I basically will shake 4 more frames of nurse bees in that box from different boxes, and that's my starter.
Okay.
And I have when I make it up, I put a empty frame in the middle, or they'll draw crazy comb before you get a queen graft in there. And then once every 10 days, I give them another frame of capped brood that's ready to hatch, and I run that starter all summer long. Just keep adding a frame every week to 10 days. I put a new frame of capped brood in there, and it'll be packed with bees. Sometime once or twice in the middle of summer, you'll have to take a split out of it because there'll be so many bees in it they can't get in the box. But they do a nuke will do a real good job. And if you're not raising a lot of queens, that hive will start and finish up to about 20 cells. They can't do much over 20. The quality starts coming down. But 20 cells, you keep it strong like that, they'll start and raise at least 20.
Okay. Well, you got my second part of the question there about how many. And I see where you have, when you make your grafting bar, you have the staggered holes that you use. And I was considering using that method, giving that a try. So I was sort of interested in what you did for a starter colony, but I appreciate it.
Well, that come from Kent Williams, which is a master beekeeper. He taught me to graft. And he said that he had tried the straight bars and the diagonal bars. And by far, you'll get more takes with a diagonal. And I didn't know whether I believed him or not. But I made them up, like I said, like he taught me. And the first year, I tested them side by side. And by far, the crossed ones, they'll get more takes out of it. Have no reason why they do that. Kent said that it allowed more surface for the bees to get around all the cells to work them is why you get more accepted. I don't know if that's the case or not, but I just know that you'll get more acceptance if you use a staggered, a 45-degree angle on the graft bar.
Okay. Well, just one more question to you. I'm in the process of growing my apiary, and I have 17 hives as it is, colonies right now, and I'm going to get 10 packages in the spring. Is it beyond belief that I could expand that to 100 colonies by the end of the year?
Absolutely, you can make it. No question, no doubt in my mind. No doubt in my mind. As you guys all know, I lost a wife last year, and I didn't take care of my bees right because she was sick. I lost about everything in the yard. I built this yard out of 4 double deep nukes and 20 packages, and I built it to over 300 hives and sold 50 nukes. And yeah, it could be done, no problem.
All right, Joe. I sure appreciate it.
Okay. Joey, you're up.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, good. Thanks. I appreciate it. I have a question about equipment startup. Maybe you or Dave can maybe hit on this. Starting up a bee equipment business.
Dave would be more in line with that because I don't sell any bee equipment.
It just depends how much you want to invest. I mean, we go through Man Lake, and that's where we get all of our boxes and such. And I mean, we sell a lot of Man Lake products.
Right.
But the initial, I mean, I think you have to have like I think it's $7,500 to get started.
Okay.
Is what they require that you buy per year, I think. Don't quote me on that for sure, but I think it's $7,500 minimum that they require that you buy per year.
Do you have like a list of what, like 25 of this, 25 of that? Did you guys start that way, or you just kind of?
No, not pretty much just randomly. We tried to pick what we thought the customer would want. Like with the 10 frames, we did probably, just guessing, 70% 10 frame, 30% 8 frame, and then went with a lot of deeps, mediums, shallows. A lot of people are moving to mediums. Most people aren't using shallows anymore.
Right.
And then we add a lot of our homemade stock to it as well. We do a lot of in-house building that we offer the customer, like with the bottom boards, the lids, just to kind of, bring the cost down. And, we build with Advantech lumber,
okay,
which is really an expensive lumber. It's pretty high. It's like $30 a sheet, but that's what we make all of our nukes out of. Nukes and mini nukes, 2 framers.
Okay.
Joe, where you live at? What area?
I'm near Lafayette, Louisiana.
Well, I can't help you. And there's a guy in Ohio that if you buy 250 nukes or other, he's got some really good prices on boxes. But he'll deliver free, already put together, up to 500 miles.
Oh wow, yeah.
But some of these guys in the group, I'd already had mine built. He was selling assembled deep nuke high boxes for $7 a piece. Assembled,
wow,
delivered.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and pretty good quality too. The guys, I think Todd. You want to say something about them, Todd? Maybe Lester can throw a link down there, one of you guys in the chat, so people can check that out.
Yeah, I ordered 250 from him, and I got a mixture of 5 frames, 8s, and 10s, and they were delivered last week to me, and I've, of course, not gone through all of them at this point in time, that they're still in the stack. Just got to start painting and dipping them, but looked at them. What I see, they look really good. They were put together well. Before I ordered them, I asked the gentleman to send me some samples. He did, and I thus far have been very pleased with them. I think Jason's also got some on order from him. So I don't see any issues with them. I think Jason's getting lids and bottoms with his, but I just got the boxes themselves. And it was $7 for the 5 frame and $8 for the 8s and 10s.
Oh, wow. That's an awesome price.
Yep. Put together, delivered to you, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. One other question. Running single brood boxes versus double brood boxes, what are the pros and cons of that? I run normally all double broods, but this year I've changed, and I'm going to try single brood boxes.
Somebody want to go first on this one? I got opinions, but I'll let somebody else jump in there. Anybody got it?
Where are you located?
I'm near Lafayette, Louisiana, just west of Baton Rouge.
Oh, now you talk about running something through the winter?
Yeah, just going from 2 broods down to a single brood for next year.
Okay, I break everything down to here in North Georgia to a single.
Yeah.
10 frame, 8 frame, nuke box, everything's a single. I don't run any double anything through the winter. Nothing. They do just fine here. They put enough honey and pollen. I got no problem whatsoever running singles here. You'd be even problem with it. I wouldn't run anything double if I was you.
Okay.
No, I got one question. Are you trying to make bees, or are you trying to make honey?
Right now, I'm trying to make honey.
Well, if you're trying to make honey, I think you need to run a double box, because they found out that for whatever reason, a bee, you can take 2 hives together with 25,000 bees in each hive, and they'll make less honey than 50,000 in one big hive. You just got more. The jobs are not spread out. But when you got 2 hives, you got them all having to raise brood and nest. When you got 50,000 bees in one hive, you got enough bees to take care of the brood, do the foraging, and have a lot more foragers out. If you're making honey, I would stick with the double first.
Stick to the doubles, okay.
If I was making bees, I'm like David. I would go singles.
Yeah. See, I'm more into making bees. So when I answer these questions, I'm thinking bees.
Okay. Yeah.
Sometimes I kind of forget about honey because I don't do a lot of honey.
Maybe talk to Mike. You got anything to say about that? You raise a lot of honey down there where you're at. What do you think?
Exactly like what you said. If you're going to make bees, you're going to have to make bees. You can't do both. It just ain't going to happen. You're going to have to devote your hives. It's going to make honey and have them in a different yard and keep them as strong as they can. So when your pollen and nectar flow is going hard, that they have the workforce there, just like a big army will whoop a little army. But your big army will make all your honey for you, and you got to keep them strong. The word strong is what it is.
And I had really good results last year and this year with honey, production. I ran right at 10 hives and got some good numbers. I just was wanting to try something new with the single broods next year, but I think I have my answer.
Yeah.
One thing that I do too, I run all 8 frames in my yard now, in all mediums. And one reason for that is health reasons. The weight, you can handle those boxes just as good. Now I've left my 10 frames sitting right beside my 8 frames in honey production. My 8 frames won't do the 10 frames. I just explained it like that. Yeah. And I'm running mediums. I have no deeps in my yard. Well, I take it back. I've got 1. It's just because I hadn't, put them out of it. You know what I mean? I firmly believe in a medium-sized box, but, for health reasons, my wife and daughters help me a lot. So I'm looking at a lighter weight box, and I make just as much honey. I've done proven that to myself.
Also, I heard on that same, maybe kind of branch off of that, on the 5-frame boxes outproducing 10-frame boxes for honey. Has anybody done that comparison before?
Langford would be the one to talk to on that. He's got a buddy down there. That's all he uses is 5-frame box for honey. Go ahead, Langford.
The gentleman that taught me how to be a beekeeper has been keeping bees for 63 years, and he has a few 10 frames, but he does all 5-frame nuke boxes, and he gives them 2 5-frame deeps for the brood, queen excluder, and he'll pull in our area. Going back to what you were saying earlier, the numbers don't add up because I run double deep brood chambers, 8 frames, and then I do medium supers. If you count all the cells on 1 frame, you come up with 9,000 cells. And as Joe's mentioned in one of his videos before, the numbers don't add up. They say queens can only lay 1,500 to 2,000 eggs a day. How do I have 2 8-frame full of brood, wall to wall, no honey, no nothing other than, and no drones in those boxes? The numbers don't add up. The queen will lay to what she has the hive has the ability to cover and maintain.
Right.
Some queens are better than others. I've got a couple of videos on my YouTube channel, which is Woolly Bee Apiaries on YouTube, that is this gentleman, we're doing hive inspections, and the videos are labeled The Foul-Mouthed Beekeeper. If you want to, you can go watch him. He's quite interesting.
Okay.
It's been a very privilege to have known this man.
All right. Well, that's all the questions I have. Thanks, everybody, for your answers. I appreciate it.
Okay. Let me see here. M and J, you're unmuted.